Well, just a week to go before the midterm elections, political violence has been on the rise. But according to a CNN commentator from both sides, well, they're equally to blame for that political violence. Take a look.
This is about political rhetoric that has led to political violence, and that goes on both sides of the aisle. Juliet hinted at the fact that it does happen on both sides, and I think it's really important for us to remember that you look at Chuck Schumer in March of this year, when there was hints of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. He said that that would unleash a whirlwind, and he would hate to see what would happen at that point, and who knows what would hit them. 3 months later, a man was arrested outside of Justice Kavanaugh's home with a gun, with burglary tools, and arrested for trying to assassinate a Supreme Court justice. So it's important to remember this happens on both sides of the aisle, and it's incumbent on Republicans and Democrats to lower their temperature on divisive rhetoric.
So that was CNN contributor Alice Stewart, who was trying very, very, very hard to stress, both sides, there's violence on both sides. It's really bad. It's very, very equal, though. I mean, the violence is bad, but it's very, very even. I mean, I can't tell which society that does more violence. They must be both equally as violent. Really? Well, let's look at both sides, shall we? Now, this is according to data from the New America think tank. They found that last year, since September 11th, 2001, far-right terrorists had killed 122 people in the United States. How many people have been killed by the far left? One. But there's no difference. No difference. A study from the Center of Strategic and International Studies last year found that since 2015, right-wing extremists have been involved in 267 plots or attacks. What would the far left, right? What they call the far left, 66. A Washington Post University of Maryland survey released in January also found attitudes about, violence against the government, where right-wingers, 40% of Republicans said, if we could definitely justify violence against the government. Now, that's compared with 23% of Democrats. Which side does more political violence? Alice can't tell. She can't tell everybody. She just can't tell. There's more information. Now, on Friday, the day of the attack against Paul Pelosi, U.S. security agencies issued a warning that domestic violent extremists pose heightened threats around the November 8th vote. So now, again, let's look at the context. What's driving that? What is driving these threats of political violence? Well, it turns out, quote, election-related perceptions of fraud and domestic violence extremist reactions to divisive topics will likely drive sporadic DVE plotting of violence and broader efforts to justify violence in the lead-up to and following the 2022 midterm election cycle, the agency said in a joint intelligence bulletin. What's driving this violence? Yeah, it's election, this discussion about election fraud. This discussion about, I don't know, it's the groomers, they're in the schools, they're grooming the children, and they're putting kitty litter boxes in the classroom for the furries. None of that's true. None of that's true. But guess what? It is leading to an uptick of violence. Is that a surprise? No, it shouldn't be. No, they are driving their viewers to doing violent things by telling them, oh my God, the world is ending. They're transing your kids. Oh, they're going to forcibly trans your children, and then they're going to drink their blood. What? No, that's absolutely ridiculous. What planet are you on? You are not on Earth. You're not in the same world as we are. You exist in your entire, in an entirely different reality. It's nuts. They're crazy. And look, it has, unfortunately, real repercussions, because generally, I mean, you could laugh at it. Like, oh, these nutty, QAnoners, whatever, right? But no, it has real implications here, real repercussions. In fact, a Democratic candidate in Pennsylvania was just recently assaulted in his backyard. And in July, a man with a gun had threatened Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal at her home. Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell been the target of numerous violent threats. And of course, AOC is constantly threatened, harassed. Death threats, rape threats, you name it. Where's all this coming from? Not only that, but poll workers have also reported widespread threats after Trump and his followers blamed them for his 2020 election loss. And now some areas are saying, we can't find poll workers. The threats are so bad. The poll workers we had are quitting, and we can't find any to replace them. In fact, again, this is in Arizona, where you had armed people who are, they've got video cameras. They're watching drop boxes. They're accusing people who use the drop boxes for their intended purpose to drop off a ballot. Oh, you're just the mules. We found the mules. No, not a mule. Again, the entire thing is ridiculous and dangerous. Such actions raise serious concerns of voter intimidation, said the Justice Department in a filing to the Arizona Federal District Court, where a lawsuit has been filed over the issue. But I wonder who the violent ones are. Oh, look, has there been instances of violence in people on the left? Yeah, there has. There was, as she mentioned, and it's one of the only things that she can mention, other than the other one that I'm going to mention. You had an armed man in June traveling to Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's house. Now, look, he was arrested and charged. That's good. That's good. It worked. It worked. The system worked. Nobody on the left cheered for this man or made memes or celebrated like, I hoped you would have been successful. Nobody on the left, and speaking of Steve Scalise, who was shot in 2017 during a congressional baseball game, no one from the left was saying, yeah, get him, Steve Scalise, we're going to mock you for being shot. No, that didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. And that's the difference. Again, when someone from the left does something terrible, the left gets together and denounces that person. But the right wing either lies, distorts, muddies the waters, blames the other side, it's a deeper, but never, ever takes responsibility. I mean, conservative voters now are awash in dangerous conspiracies and disinformation. Ironically, they're provoking the government, and this is something that I don't want to happen, to start looking at online disinformation. Ken Klippenstein wrote a huge piece in The Intercept about this, about the DOJ's like, we might have to look into online disinformation. Well, it's the last organization, agency that I want looking in to the internet and trying to police the internet. But it's because of these right-wing morons. Now, that said, I want to show you the next video here from the panel discussion. And thankfully, somebody actually pushed back.
When you say both sides, it is the Republican Party, many of them in leadership, who are telling their voters that your election was stolen. That is not true. It is Republicans who are telling, and not all Republicans, I'm saying there's some on the fringe, but it's moved to the center, the QAnon conspiracies, that there are Democratic leaders who are leading circles or abusing children, drinking blood, that Democrats hate God, hate the country. When you say this happens on both sides, you have to consider what this man said, why he was there. He said that he did not leave because, like American founding fathers with the British, he was fighting against tyranny. Who told him that he was fighting against tyranny? Many of the people who are on the ballot on the Republican ticket. So when you say both sides, consider what he said, why he was there, and who fed him that.
Look, this segment, I mean, that's a good response to it. But why is that lunatic on the segment to begin with, and I'm talking about Alice. Again, she is a Republican. She's an ex-Huckabee staffer. Mike Huckabee, not exactly known for making a lot of true statements. No, he loved jumping into the culture wars. So, I mean, that's the issue here, right? You have all these, people being featured as contributors to CNN. Of course, both sides. I can't tell who the violent ones. I can't tell actual facts and reality. No, she knows better, but she's got to protect her side. And that's what it is. I got to protect my side. I got to protect the Republicans. I can't be honest. That's the problem. And so, again, I know it's a moot point. I know she's never going to, feel any shame, but she ought to be ashamed of herself. We're continuing to perpetuate this nonsense narrative of both sides. Both sides. F off.